Hey guys, welcome to my July 27th DVD update. I talk about other DVDs and Blu-rays I've gotten over the last 2 weeks or so. Now, like I always say, if you enjoy these DVD and Blu-ray updates, definitely give this video a thumbs up, share it around, leave a comment below and let me know what you think of the titles I've talked about, and reviewed in this update. Any suggestions for future titles that I should check out to include in future updates. Anyway, though, the first one I got from Universal is a new Tom Cruise film, Oblivion. It's a really fun sci-fi movie. Really like the music that M83 did in this. Has a kind of old school vibe, kind of like the music in Tron, the new Tron that Daft Punk did. That kind of electronic mixed with old school sci-fi kind of vibe, computer synth kind of music, which I really did like. Now the movie's got a couple, I've seen a lot of mixed reviews on it. I really liked it. The movie's basically about, in the future, the Earth is pretty much destroyed, and Tom Cruise is on a ship. It's him and a woman on this kind of like above the earth kind of thing, it's very difficult to explain. I have a very hard time explaining this movie, but they're on this kind of thing, a little bit above the earth, and they're basically there to bring supplies up to a ship kind of device that's above, taking the researches from the earth and bringing them up to where everyone else lives in this kind of contained, universe above, this spaceship kind of thing. And, there's these drone things that are there that don't fire on him because they're basically there only to kill the aliens that are on the planet. And when he's there, a ship ends up crashing. When he ends up, there's only one survivor on the ship, and it's this woman, and she recognizes him. And I don't want to say too much more about it, but it's one of those kind of movies where there's not a ton of things happening. It's more like development, and one of those kind of things where you really have to pay attention to things because everything fits into place. Morgan Freeman, though, doesn't have as huge of a part in it as you would think. His part is really good, but it's not like a really big role. It's mainly Tom Cruise kind of off on his own doing his own stuff. And some people really don't like those kind of movies that are a little bit slower and a little bit more of a character development kind of movie with just sort of things happening. To me, I thought it was pretty good. I kind of like those movies. And it's one of those movies, too, where everything really fits together, but you really have to pay attention to it. A lot of complaints, though, said they should have done a little bit more with the backstory. I do kind of agree they could have shown a little bit more with that. But I really did enjoy this one. I thought it's a really fun movie. Got a bunch of features on here, deleted scenes, commentary, and it has an isolated score, with the M83 music. I would definitely recommend checking it out. Like I said, though, it's one of those movies that's a little bit difficult to explain. The next one I got from Warner Brothers, and this is one that I was really looking forward to seeing, just had heard about it, didn't even know that they were making this, and it's House Party Tonight's the Night. And the main reason I wanted to see it, because Kid and Play have a cameo in it. I didn't know going into it how much they were in it. The thing is, they're really only in the movie for like a minute, and I bet it was kind of stuff that was filmed later, because I think the movie, from what I could tell and what I found out about it, was shot in South Africa, and I'm guessing that they didn't want to travel and do it, or something like that. I do really wish, though, it was more, they would have just made a new movie with Kid and Play. As a kid, I loved Kid and Play, like Class Act. It was like one of my favorite movies. Still to this day, I really love the movie. I mean, it's a cheesy film, but it's just such a fun movie. I've watched it so many times. And, especially, Kid and Play really don't do any movies, and I was just so excited to see him in something again. But like I said, it's something so quick. The movie's about these two kids throwing a house party while the one's parents are out of town, and basically that's what it is. It's like a party with a lot of these kind of long dance scenes. And the whole time, you're just waiting to see Kid and Play. I mean, there is some funny stuff. There's a character, this really goofy guy, and this girl, and like that stuff was kind of funny, like these kind of weird things that were going on. I don't want to ruin what happens. There was like this one annoying neighbor that was like this older lady that liked the one and kept on hitting on him, and it's just one of those kind of things where, I don't know, it's really not like a house party movie exactly. I don't know, it was cool to see Kid and Play again, but I kind of wish that, I hope that this gets more attention for them, and then we get to see a new, Kid and Play movie. I would absolutely love to see something new with them. It doesn't have to be Class Act 2 or House Party 2. It could be anything with just them again. I was really hoping they were going to do like a new rap song or something in it, but they didn't. And the next one I got from Paramount is Star Trek: The Next Generation Season 4. This is a really fun show. This is one that I just, have only ever seen. I saw a couple episodes on TV and things like that here and then, but have mainly seen it on Blu-ray. And, the show looks absolutely amazing on Blu-ray. I've talked about with the past seasons how they take the show, and the show was totally re-edited again, because originally when it was cut on tape, so it was not in HD. So they've gone back for the Blu-rays and totally put the movie back together again, re-put the effects together again, totally remastered the thing, and it looks like it's a brand new show. It looks to a point where you can't even believe how old the thing is. The episode on here that I really loved was the one with Will Wheaton's character and Patrick Stewart when they were on the planet by themselves with the water, had to get this water and had to, Patrick Stewart's like, I don't think I'm going to make it. I don't know, that was the one on here I really liked. It's got a whole bunch of features on here. Gag reel, which is always really fun to see a show like this, to see how much fun they were having making it. That's like one of my favorite things, is when they, put things like that together for shows like you wouldn't expect. The best gag reel I've ever seen in my life, and it was taken offline because it was filthy dirty, was the Zoobly Zoo gag reel, which, if anyone knows where the original one was, there was uncensored. Oh my God, like what was going on with that? But this has got, deleted scenes on here, a new documentary, conversations with the actors, commentaries on selected episodes. It's just a really fun show and looks really good. The next one I got from Disney. This one's been in the vault for a long time. This is one of the ones, too, that I know I saw as a kid, but have not seen for years. And I feel like it's one of the lesser-known, talked-about Disney films. Because there's some of them that, you hear about all the time. You like Pinocchio, Lion King, some of the ones. But this is the one that I had not really heard much about. But when I was watching it, had like that dee-da-dee-da-dee-da-do-do, the original one of that song. But what I really loved about this movie was the opening credits, and it's the Disney's Robin Hood, but the opening credits and the opening scene, the song in it. It was a very surreal opening credits. I had never seen a Disney movie open it with this kind of weird vibe to it, with the music and this kind of weird, almost like the way you would open like Three Stooges or something. There's something weird about it. And, even the animation in this has like a different look, and I'm guessing because it was like 70s Disney. I don't know of that many 70s Disney movies that I can think of, animated ones. And maybe it was like they had like a different style to it then, just had like a little bit of a different vibe, but it's Disney's take on the classic Robin Hood story, about Robin Hood stealing from the rich, giving to the poor, and that's basically what the story is, was him, and there's like an evil prince character, and like the character who's with Robin Hood in there, and there's also like this snake character that works with the prince, and it's kind of interesting too, like when you look at the earlier Disney films, you can see how certain characters kind of look like other ones, like the one character kind of looks like Baloo in the Jungle Book, and like it's kind of an interesting thing. The movie though looks great on Blu-ray, really remastered really well. It has a DVD on here as well. It has a never before seen deleted scenes, alternate ending, a number of different features on here. It's just a really fun one. Like I said too, with a really surreal, different kind of feeling Disney, opening sequence. Now this one was from the vault as well, and it's Disney's The Sword in the Stone Blu-ray DVD digital copy, and this is the 50th anniversary. This is one that I had never seen before, or might have seen as a kid, but this is like one that, if you've been to Disneyland or Disney, I think it's at Disney World as well, but the sword thing in the stone that everyone tries to pull out, well, this is based, that thing at Disney is based on this movie. And it's about a kid who meets this wizard who, the kid works for the castle with his father, and, he's kind of like just somebody who does things around there and isn't like, never somebody you would ever think would be, be a king or anything like that. And it's basically the story about this wizard kind of training him to become the king of the castle and putting him through all these tests and turning him into a fish and things like that. This was just a really fun one. Another one, too, like I said, that I had not heard too much about. And like I hear more about the thing at Disney than I've heard about this. And I like that Disney's putting out some of the ones that are just not as known as much, or that I have not heard as much about. This has never before seen alternate opening, sing-along bonus shorts on here. There's another one too that looks absolutely great on Blu-ray. Now, this one is one as a kid I really liked. My brother really liked this one. We watched this one together last night, and it's Oliver and Company. This is the 25th anniversary event, edition. Makes me feel kind of old because I'm older than this movie. It's kind of like, whew, getting up there. I'm 27 though, but I remembered seeing this one as a kid. I had a VHS this one, watch this one all the time. I also watched one around the same time as well. Rescuers Down Under was another like favorite one of mine during this time, especially because John Candy did a voice, and I've always been a fan of John Candy and always watched all of his stuff. But Oliver and Company though, it's kind of interesting. Watching it now, I kind of realized the show Rude Dog and the Dweebs borrowed a lot from this. It kind of was kind of copying the dog character, which is kind of interesting. I guess because this movie, like, I don't remember like how it did or anything, because I was too young to know, but I guess that this must have inspired that, or like during this time dog movies are really big. This movie is about a cat, a stray cat that ends up with this group of these dogs that are, taken care of by this homeless guy who lives down the docks. And the guy owes all this money to this kind of guy who works in the docks. Is kind of like a high up guy, kind of like a mobster kind of guy. He's always smoking cigars and stuff like that. And the dogs are always kind of stealing things and bringing them back to the guy to, help him get money to pay this guy off. And Oliver the cat ends up getting taken in by this girl, taken to a real fancy house, and it's them trying to get the cat back. I don't know, it's just a really fun family movie. The thing that's cool about it too is it's got some real 80s music in it. Billy Joel did the music in it, and has like that real 80s vibe in the city. This is one I would really recommend. And if you like dog films and things like that, really would definitely check this out. It's got some short films on here. The Making of Oliver and Company looks really great on Blu-ray. Definitely check that out. Now, this is one that I had never seen before, and this one is out from Image Entertainment. And I don't know how I had never seen this one before, because I watched most Kathleen Turner films. It's Kathleen Turner's film with she was in with Nicolas Cage. Peggy Sue Got Married, and this movie, I will admit, I found it very, some of it was a little sad, because everybody thinks about like changes you would make going back to if you were in high school and things like that. So it makes you kind of think about all that kind of stuff. And it's basically about, Kathleen Turner's character is going to her, I think it was like 15th or I think it was 25th anniversary, because they had all the characters in the beginning playing way older than they were. Like Jim Carrey's character is probably the age that he is now, playing back then in the 80s, and I think 86. But she's going to her high school reunion. And, she's basically, in the middle of a separation from her husband, played by Nicolas Cage. She's going there with her daughter. And then when they bring out the cake, she gets called up to be the prom queen of the reunion. She ends up passing out, waking up back in time. So the movie's about her back in time, back when she was in the last year of high school, getting ready to graduate. And it's all about, like, if you make the same decisions, the same choices, and, trying to, changing your path and all that kind of stuff. I just really love that. I really love these kind of movies. That's why I love Back to the Future. Going back in time movies and things like that are always fun to me. This is one I would highly, highly recommend. Like I said, too, I found some of it to be very sad. But, just a really good one. This is another one that I had not seen before, and it's a Kevin Bacon film, Quicksilver. And this film definitely has a lot of inspiring to Premium Rush. Premium Rush isn't like the exact same story, but I think this one to me is more fun and has that real 80s vibe, and with a lot of 80s montage scenes. And I think it took place in San Francisco, because it looked like, because of the landscape and things like that. I don't know if I'm pretty sure it was San Francisco, but Kevin Bacon starts out as this Wall Street broker. He's doing really well, but he ends up, a deal goes through, he ends up losing all of his money, loses all of his family's savings, and it cuts to a number of months later, or it might be a year later, and he's now a bike messenger driving around on his bike, delivering things and things like that. And he ends up kind of involved with, or noticing, this got a lot of people in this too. It's got Louis Anderson is in it, Lawrence Fishburne is in this, a number of character actors are in this. Paul Rodriguez, who's been in tons and tons of stuff. Like, all kinds of people are in this one. Lawrence Fishburne's character is kind of delivering. It's basically about characters delivering things, and basically doing drugs, not knowing what they're doing. And this one character that's kind of killed off Lawrence Fishburne's character, and all the kind of bad things that are going on around Kevin Bacon's character. And it's like I said, it's a lot like Premium Rush a little bit. With Premium Rush, was way after this though. But Kevin Bacon and the one character becomes friends with this woman, and she's helping the guy. And don't want to say tons of stuff about it, but it's a really fun movie. Has great 80s music in it too, and like the really cool opening and really great like 80s dance scene in it. Like in the 80s they used to have a lot of those kind of scenes in movies that were like a pointless dance scene in the middle of the movie, and I miss that kind of stuff. Like when they did that, and the movie has that. You're like, what's this like 4-minute dance thing going on? And I love that kind of stuff. Like that's the stuff I really miss. The next one I got from Anchor Bay is a new film starring Eli Roth. And I thought Eli Roth did a pretty good job. I liked Eli Roth and all the stuff I've seen him in Cabin Fever, which he directed, but he also acted in that. Inglourious Bastards. I thought he did pretty good. He wasn't the best, like, most believable actor in it, but I thought he did pretty good, though. The movie's, Aftershock, and it's basically about he's an American tourist in Chile, going there to meet up with his one friend and his other friend who's there with him. And they're basically out there just doing kind of the tourist stuff, going around to, like, the vineyards, going to a party. So basically, the movie has like 3 different acts. The first act is kind of them around, just sort of like a comedy, pretty much. Them going around, sort of screwing around, going to parties, things like that. Then at the party, they end up having a huge earthquake that happens, and all these people getting killed, and then it becomes the aftermath of trying to get out of the city. And, all the terrible things that go on. It's got vibes of, like, Escape from New York, because people are crazy everywhere. And this was just a really, really pretty cool one. Always like these kind of movies about people going to other countries and things happening. Like, I love Turistas. Love all those kind of movies when it's all kinds of problems going on. And I thought this was one of the pretty cool ones. And it was cool, too, how it was all these different kind of movies in one. A lot of things, too, that happen in it that you're not expecting. Things like that. I don't know, though. I really thought this was a pretty cool one, though. There's a Selena Gomez cameo in this. So I really wonder if she was just there and they got her to do it. Because I'm pretty sure that if she would have come all the way to do it, they would have had her be, like, one of the main girls in it. So I wasn't sure how that cameo came into play. But it's got a commentary on here, a making of. Just a really cool one. I really, really thought it was a pretty good one. And the next one from Anchor Bay as well is Solomon Kane. This movie's kind of like the Conan films mixed with Army of Darkness, with less, like, not really any comedy, though. Those kind of medieval kind of movies, mixed with elements of, like, the Robin Hood movie with Kevin Costner. Those kind of feelings to it. Makes it a little bit like Lord of the Rings. And it's about this guy who starts off as this terrible person who's going around to castles, stealing things from people, killing people everywhere he goes. Just a really bad person. Ends up, getting into this trap at this castle, and like the Grim Reaper's like assistant kind of character, the devil's, comes for him, and he ends up escaping, and he basically ends up trying to change his life and do good in hopes that, like, the devil won't come for him. And it's all about that, and about him meeting this family, and the family is with, he's basically changed his ways, really starts to like this family. The family ends up getting killed by these terrible characters, and this one character with this mask, it kind of looks like almost like a Leatherface kind of crazy mask, and he ends up, trying to get the daughter back in hopes of saving his soul. It's all these kind of things are happening. I don't know, though. I just thought this was a really well done one. Was really surprised that this one did never come to theaters in the U.S., because I believe it came out in like 2009 and 10 a lot of places, but was a really well done one, which I really, it's not a low budget kind of feeling or anything like that. It was really high production values and really good for these kind of movies. Like, I haven't seen, but also it was R-rated too, so it was like those kind of Lord of the Rings and stuff, but like ultra violent and things like that. The next one from Ketchup Entertainment. This one I was really impressed with, and I didn't know, too much about it. And it was the new Paul Walker film, Vehicle 19. This is about, Paul Walker comes to South Africa to meet his girlfriend. He was basically just in jail, just got out, and, his girlfriend's, he's basically coming there to try and start his life over, get things together. Right when he gets to the airport to pick up his rental car, though, things are going wrong. He got there late. The girlfriend's yelling at him saying, "What are you doing? Are you getting drunk? You're doing this?" Goes in the rental car, ends up finding a cell phone and, a gun in the car. And he becomes this whole situation with, getting into the wrong car and all the problems. Gets a call on the thing, from somebody, and then finds there's a girl in the back in the trunk. And it's this whole thing about him trying to do the right thing and to solve what's going on, yet the girlfriend is, extremely angry at him for, she thinks that he's getting drunk or doing something bad, and then he becomes unraveled in this whole situation. But it's one of those kind of movies, too, that's taking the whole entire movie takes place in the car. But I thought it was really well done the way they did it, and it was shot really well. I thought the South African setting, really gave it a cool vibe, and they used authentic music. They use like Diane Wood music, and they're from South Africa and things like that. I like that. I thought it was a really cool setting and gave it a little bit of a different feel. And you could tell, too, it wasn't all done. Sometimes they do movies like this, it's all done green screen, things like that. That you could tell they were really doing that. All the stuff practically. It's really added to it. The next one from Accelerator Media is a new Stephen C. Miller film, Under the Bed. I was really looking forward to seeing this one. Stephen C. Miller did the Silent Night, Deadly Night remake, the Aggression Scale, which I really, really love, which is basically like a twisted Home Alone gone R-rated. And Under the Bed is kind of like Little Monsters gone R-rated to the extreme with, some violent stuff in it. It's about this kid, these two brothers. The one brother has recently come back home after living with his aunt or someone for a number of years because of what had happened to their mother, and he needed to get away because his mother died in a fire. He comes back, and there's all this stuff going on with this monster that the brothers seen, the younger brothers seen, the older brothers seen, this monster that's underneath the bed. And it's them trying to, figure out what's going on and trying to figure out how to trap it. And it's got real classic stuff in it, like with the light bulbs, kind of like in Little Monsters, with them like making the light thing. Like if you've seen Little Monsters, you would get like some of the like slight references to it. Even like, I don't want to say too much about it, but even like certain scenes give you that same kind of vibe to it. But this is a very creepy one. And it's one of those kind of movies, though, it's a slow building film. So you have to know it when you're going into it, that it's not a real fast pace movie. Like the last 30 minutes are the best stuff in the movie. Really, really violent, gory stuff. Like so I said, like Little Monsters to the extreme. But this was just a really fun, has a real 80s kind of Goonies kind of vibe, Monster Squad kind of feel to it. The next one from Image Entertainment as well is the Dick Van Dyke Show, and this is the complete 5th season. I talked about the 4th season in the last update. This is a really fun show. Desilu Productions produced this. So it has that kind of I Love Lucy kind of vibe with the sets, and it's like, a sitcom with him who's a writer and all the kind of situations and things that he gets into, a lot of physical comedy. Don Rickles is in a number of the episodes. Don Rickles, is a great stand-up comedian. Like one of the characters, though, person I would never want to see because I'd be afraid he'd like make the jokes at me. But I guess if you're gonna have someone make jokes at you, Don Rickles would be the best. This has got a whole bunch of features on here. New to the Blu-ray is TV Guide, tribute to Carl Reiner with Gary Shandling, network promos. It's got commentaries, cast reunion clips, all kinds of stuff on that. This is one I would highly recommend. The show looks great on Blu-ray. Definitely hope to see more classic shows around this time on Blu-ray, especially I Love Lucy, because I'm thinking they could probably, put that on Blu-ray. The next one from Image as well is The Twilight Zone, the complete 4th season. It's another really, really great anthology show. I think it was one of the first, because I know right during, I think this season is when The Outer Limits started up. Always liked both of them, though, were really good. After Twilight Zone, there was tons of like the Night Gallery, which Rod Sterling did as well. Which is another one, which is kind of, the Twilight Zone was more like kind of horror, science fiction kind of stories. The show looks great on DVD. It's definitely just one, if you love, anthology shows, and they made, this spun off the Twilight Zone, the movie. So I really, really love that. Really fun one. But this is just a great anthology story. It's got a whole bunch of people in this one, the featured characters in it. Bill Bixby, Burgess Meredith, Burt Reynolds, Dennis Hopper, tons and tons of people in this. Definitely would check this out if you haven't seen the show. But I feel like it's a show that like everyone's seen an episode or two of. And the next one from MPI is the Jeffrey Dahmer files, which is a really, to me, I thought it was very creepy. I thought the person that they had play Jeffrey Dahmer did a really good job and was very creepy. It was making me think, too, like if they made like a really big Jeffrey Dahmer, you know, Hollywood-made film, I could see Ryan Gosling playing him. He has that, could definitely pull that off. I could definitely, if you saw him like Lars and the Real Girl, he could definitely do it. But this is a movie that's kind of done through, you know, it's kind of reenactments that are all shot on 16 millimeter, which give it this really creepy, old school vibe to it. They did a good job too with the reenactments. Like, there's only one or two things in it that you could kind of tell weren't 1992. You know, like one or two times you saw like the new Doritos bag, but it was real far back, and only I would pick up on that. But you know, it's basically interviews with the police officer who was at Jeffrey Dahmer's side, you know, the guy who, you know, was interviewing and getting all kinds of the confessions from him, one of the medical examiners, his neighbor, and there was some really crazy stuff the neighbor was saying about getting a sandwich from him, and she thought she ate humans, and this was just a really well-done documentary on Jeffrey Dahmer. There's been a number of movies on him, but you know, there's been like, I think there was like 2 or 3 different ones. But if you want to see like a really, probably one of the best documentaries I've seen that was the most interesting, definitely watch this. You even see a cameo from the guy for American Movie in it. The next one I got from Anchor Bay as well. It's the new Aaron Eckhart film, Erased. And this movie was pretty interesting. It was kind of like, a lot of people online were saying it kind of like a movie Liam Neeson would be in. It has like a vibe of like Taken. But this thing that's different about this is it deals with the daughter character who's there with him pretty much the whole time, which kind of adds a different element to it. But Liam Neeson works for the security company, testing out security products, looking for the flaws and things like that. Ends up going into work the next day with his daughter because the night before, you know, she ate peanuts, you know, has an allergy, and so they didn't end up going home, so she has to go with them to pick up something at the office. To get to the office, everything's missing. And it's a whole kind of thing about, you know, where did everybody go? You know, going to the corporate office, trying to figure out where they are. They have no record of this company that Aaron Eckhart's character worked for, no record of him ever working for him. Aaron Eckhart's files have been erased for the last 14 years, and then people are coming after him and his daughter. So it's like a movie about him trying to get to the bottom of what's going on and, you know, getting away with his daughter and things like that. But I thought it was a pretty well done movie. You know, it kind of gets a little confusing by the end. You know, I think it starts off a little bit better than it ends. But I thought it was a pretty interesting movie. Aaron Eckhart, though, is always good in everything. So he did a really good job at it. But I do see how people could say that it looks like something Liam Neeson would be in. You know, like a lot like a Taken kind of movie. The next one from Vertical Entertainment is Rush Lights, and this is a movie about this one girl and her boyfriend. They kind of met. The guy met her. She worked at a diner, and they, you know, start dating. The one girl's roommate ends up overdosing and dying, and they end up, you know, escaping, getting away. You know, they end up leaving because they're afraid of like the cops and don't want to deal with that. They end up coming across a letter that the roommate had about her. I think it was her uncle that had passed away and left all this land and money to the girl who's dead. So they come up with the idea of the girl, you know, impersonating her and going there and collecting the money and getting the land. So it's them going there and trying to pull a fast one on the people. Beau Bridges is in it as the town sheriff. You know, it's basically them there trying to pull this over, why there's kind of like death and people, you know, getting killed all around them. It's a whole kind of thing about all kinds of problems and things like that. I thought this was an interesting one. It's not the absolute greatest, you know, movie like this. There's been a lot of these kind of similar movies. I thought Beau Bridges, though, did a really good job. And the other guy who was in charge of the will, I thought he was the best in the movie. I don't know, I thought this was an interesting one. It says, though, on the story they're supposed to be teenagers, but it didn't seem like they were at all teenagers. The next one, though, I got from Horizon Films, from Kino's line, you know, Kino's Horizon line, is, now this is another one of those kind of films. It takes place in one place, you know. There was Buried, you know, Under the Ground movie. There was Break with Stephen Dorff when he was in the trunk of a car, the whole movie. Now, this one is about a guy who ended up getting in a mudslide, getting his car stuck, wakes up, you know, trapped in the mud, in his car. And I thought this to me was one of the most interesting of all of them, because there was something creepy about it. Like the mud was all around the windows, and he can't remember for sure how he got there. And the movie too steps out of the car at points by his memories and him watching back the videos on his phone with his girlfriend and things like that. But I just thought this was a very creepy one, with him trying to figure out how to get out of this situation, if he can get out of it, trying to put the pieces together of how he got here. He has no phone service, and he only has a little bit of water, and kind of all the things that he goes through to try and collect water and get air, and just, it's very interesting. I thought this was one of the better of these kind of movies. The next film from Kino as well is Fear Not. This is kind of a found footage mixed with like a regular film as well. It goes from found footage to, shot on like a high quality, as well. But it's about these kids, the one's a filmmaker. They found this Super 8 footage of like a murder that happened in this house. Turns out that they have, I think someone was a realtor, so they had access to this house, so they end up sneaking into it with their friends and go in there to try and film a documentary on this house and get all this footage. But when they're in there, all these strange things are happening. There was a weird thing that was going on, though, with the camera they were using for the found footage. It was almost like there was some kind of a flaw with it. So, like, when they shot, like, certain things that were really bright, like lights and stuff, it would turn to silver. Some kind of weird thing. I guess it was something with the camera going on. But I like the stuff when it stepped out of the found footage way more. I thought that was shot really pretty well. The found footage stuff, there's just so many of these things now going on. But there's all these kind of things happening. There's just like this weird kid who had this sort of smeared out face. It was kind of weird how they kind of like just blurred, almost like when you go into Photoshop or something, you just smear someone's face out. Kind of looked like that. But it was an interesting one. There was some weird, like, kind of dream sequences in it that were pretty creepy. But it was an interesting one. Not absolutely amazing. I did kind of like it a little more after I thought about it. But anyway, though, that's all for this DVD Blu-ray collection update. As I said, definitely give this video a thumbs up if you've been enjoying these videos. Don't forget, August 22nd at 9, 8 Central to check out Ghost Shark, the new film I'm in for Sci-Fi Channel. Anyway, though, guys, I'll see you guys later. Bye.